Today I'll be recommending 4 albums for you to listen to if you haven't already. I'm actually making a series called Album Recommendations. Well, I'll be going over albums that I have personally enjoyed and deliver a bit of storytelling on how that album came to be. Our first album takes us back to the late 1960s, where much of the rock scene was being driven by anti-Vietnam protests, counterculture, and a desire for artistic expression over commercialism. Acts like the Beatles, Pink Floyd, and Cream were pushing artistic boundaries, making rock a symbol of rebellion. Our artist, or rather group, comes from New York, which was very vibrant in the sounds of folk rock, psychedelic, and blues influence at the Fillmore East, and the experimental sounds that was coming from downtown Manhattan. This brought out artists such as Bob Dylan, Jimi Hendrix, and the Living Spoon. Lou Reed, John Cale, Sterling Morrison, and Angus MacLeish, although in 1965, MacLeish departed and Maureen Tucker joined as the band's drummer. But the start of this group, which is known as the Velvet Underground, dates back to 1964, but in 1965, they made their formal debut at the New Jersey High School Dance. But their actual debut was in 1966, opening for Andy Warhol's nightclub. After seeing the band play, Andy became their manager and mentor. He brought the band on his multimedia roadshow and expanded it into the exploding classic Inevitable. The band entered the studio in 1966 to record their album, which would later become The Velvet Underground and Nico, released in March 1967. While this album will be marked as one of the most influential albums in music history for the next decade in punk, art rock, and avant-garde music due to its minimalist sound, it received significant backlash for its controversial topics like drug use, masochism, and the band's experimental and noisy sound. This prevented the album from getting sales, and it almost didn't get released due to a lawsuit over its back cover image. When it comes to how I feel about this record personally, I love it. Production on this album is very bold and outstanding. There's a lot of minimal instrumentation on here. There's one production choice that has to be called out for: drone music, which was from John Cale's use of sustained drone note on his viola and electric guitar on tracks like Venus and Furs, Heroin, the Black Angels Death Song, and All Tomorrow's Parties, all of which have a very distinct sound thing that tied the album together. That sound from John Cale was actually from him working with the avant-garde art project Theater of Eternal Music with La Monte Young. The opener Sunday Morning sounds a lot like them singing a lullaby, especially with how it starts. I'm waiting for the man has shades of distortion, strumming guitars, and I love how the piano is glaring out of the background on the last leg. Femme Fatale is a lighthearted track with more laid-back vocals, and the text honors Eddie Sedgwick, a Warhol superstar renowned for her beauty and allure. Now, The Closer European Sun is something I do like, however, it's very grating on the ears at moments, though I think it's still a bop though in this case scenario. So this album, I think it's definitely should be in conversation to when it comes to like influential albums, especially how well it has aged over the years and how much more appreciated it has been. And this album is the art rock, the proto-punk album. If anyone's interested, please go check it out if you haven't, especially if you want to know more about the DNA of rock music for that matter. Our next album takes us to 2015 in Compton, California. Hip-hop was seeing a strong wave of trap and southern hip-hop that was starting to take over the mainstream. A rapper by the name of Kendrick Lamar had already proved himself with his 2012 record, Good Kid, Mad City. While widely considered as one of his greatest hip-hop albums of all time, in 2 short years, Kendrick by that point, to me personally, has always a very neat, bold, and very conscious, story-driven rapper, making trendier beats along with songs that help fit the narrative of the album's concept. Now, the album we're talking about in this one is Tip of the Butterfly, released on March 2015.
Bitch, where you and I was walking. Now I run a game, got the whole world talking. King Kunta, everybody wanna cut the legs off him.
The album itself is very concise, neat, and bold concept. The concept itself does require a bit more of listening than the average album. Now, when we're talking about Kendrick Lamar and his lyricism, he's already one hell of a storyteller. Though I won't go too in-depth in this album, as I think that might be for his own video, but I will mention a few tracks. Now, King Kunta is backed up by a killer groove, groovy bass line by Thundercat. Tracks like You and I are contrast to each other when it comes to hating and loving oneself. How Much a Dollar Cost is one of his better storytelling tracks. All Right was a protest due to police brutality and also has one of the best hooks of Kendrick's catalog.
If God got us, then we gon' be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright.
And Motorman closes the album beautifully, most notably with the interview that takes place at the end of the track. One of Kendrick's idols, Tupac Shakur. Yes, he actually pulled audio from an old interview from Tupac around the 90s. So much so that Kendrick literally picks his favorite bits and asks Tupac certain questions on the music industry and politics. It makes it seamlessly sound like he's actually doing an interview in real time. Now, I think this album, To Pimp a Butterfly, is a bit more risk-taking and concise and ambitious than Good Kid, Mad City was, because it doesn't really sacrifice with trendy beats, but just to try to entertain like a more broad audience. And granted, I understand some people will take a look at this album and think that, you know, this is not that good. I'm gonna just stick with Good Kid, Mad City, which is fine. But I also would think that as far as like a storytelling goes or songwriting goes, I think this is the album to go to if you're willing to know what great storytelling is. Yeah, this is my favorite Kendrick Lamar album. Our next album takes us back to the year 2000. I would say that this was during the time when shock value was really useful as a way to get people talking about a piece of music. But then again, you can still do that today, just with way more backlash. That was the case for Marshall Mathers, aka Eminem. He had already dropped his debut back in 1999 that had received awards, critical acclaim, and most notably, his alter ego, Slim Shady. His success was also thanks to producer from the West Coast, Dr. Dre, who had made a comeback with his album in 2001. For Eminem, times were ugly for him when it comes to his relationships with his wife, mother, and his fans. This really led him to retaliate with the Marshall Mathers LP, released on May 2000. This album being his sophomore LP, it's not only a massive step forward, but it's also his best project in his whole catalog. Also being home to one of the greatest songs of all time in hip-hop with Stan, where Eminem tells a story about his experience with a fan who was obsessed with him to the point where he drove off the side of the road. Yeah, I'm sure that was fun. There are a lot of highlights such as Kill You, I'm Back, Drug Ballad, and Criminal. Another one like Bitch Please 2 is loaded with features. I love the hook from Nate Dogg. I love the hell out of Eminem's verse. Other tracks like Remember Me, Amityville, and The Way I Am has Eminem showcasing his anger with his rapping, especially on The Way I Am, where he's talking about his frustration with his label and his fans. The real Slim Shady has a nice Luigi's Mansion vibe to the production.
Yes, and that's the message that we deliver to little kids.
Oh, and Kim. Has this aged well? I almost feel conflicted because it's not bad. I think it's good, but when it comes to what Eminem is doing and saying, it's both heartbreaking and scary. I would suggest listen to it for yourself. Just make sure you're in a good mental state because this could low-key fuck you up. So this album is definitely a masterpiece for hip-hop in my opinion. And I think when it comes to Eminem's entire catalog, I wouldn't say this is the first one to go to. I would suggest to just start out with his Slim Shady LP as to know what you're getting into. In that case, please check it out if you have to. It's a great album. Now for our last album, over to 2004, where Crunk in the South was making its way into popularity. There was more melodic and crossover rap with artists like Nelly and the artists we're talking about, in this case, Kanye West. Now Kanye, born and raised in Chicago, initially was into art and poetry, which would explain his artistic vision in his early catalog. While he was being seen as a producer while helping with Jay-Z's The Blueprint in 2001, he wanted to be his own artist and rap. While he did get his wish, it was an uphill battle for Kanye. Kanye's appearance wasn't fitting the gangsta or bling image that much of the world of hip-hop was in at the time. Now, over time, he would be in the studio, would create what would be the College Dropout, released on February challenged what hip-hop music could also sound like with soul samples, pop rap. I mean, it's such a great hip-hop record. Through the Wire is easily the best track on here. I love the Chipmunk Soul and Chaka Khan sample. This was made after the fatal crash he had gone to back in 2002, which resulted in a shattered jaw and needed to have his jaw wired shut, hence the title Through the Wire. Now, I think this showed how much passion he had for rapping and how much creativity he wanted to bring into it and how ambitious he was also during that time. I mean, the album also opens with We Don't Care, which features influences and a catchy hook sung by a children's choir alongside Kanye. I do love Jesus Walks and how it merges hip-hop with Christianity, exploring race and societal challenges. Slow Jams, I think, successfully fuses R&B and hip-hop with contributions from Jamie Foxx and Twista. Now, this was definitely a huge start for Kanye's career as it really catapulted him for the foreseeable future. And I'm sure this would not go downhill anytime soon. But yeah, that was 4 records that reshaped music for 4 completely different ways. If you haven't spun any of these yet, what are you doing? Please go listen to these albums if you haven't. Please, they're all great. Now, if there's any album or artist that you think I need to mention, leave it in the comments down below. I think I just might roast them in the next one. Please like and subscribe if y'all actually like this kind of content. I've been trying to brainstorm the type of editing that I've been trying to do. Hopefully it went over well. And if you enjoyed it, please leave a like. And yeah, as always, I'll see you later.